Hey guys, got some bad news. Well, depending on how you look at it, it might be bad news. Starfield just had a leak that the exploration of planets, when you, I guess, walk in a certain direction for enough time or enough distance, um, you will reach a boundary, and it'll say like boundary reached. Please load the map. So we're going to look into that article a little bit. Let me just pull it up here. Okay. Starfield boundary reached leak leaves some worried Bethesda's planets have more limits than anticipated. This is from PC Gamer. Details about the biggest game of the year continue to leak online. Boundary reached reads an in-game Starfield text box that circulated online over the weekend. When you open the, it says open the map to explore another region and return to your ship. So this to me indicates that it's kind of like entering a. I mean, if you think about Skyrim had a decent amount of loading screens, right? Like it wasn't seamless. You had the going into a town was a loading screen. Going into a house was a small loading screen. Dungeons were a small loading screen. So it's not surprising that, I mean, think about how much RAM you would need to render an entire planet at once. So you knew, right? You knew when they said the 1,000 planets thing. You knew there would be a caveat to that, and I think this is the first time we're seeing that caveat. This is the catch, and it's something that I think it's going to make a certain demographic mad, especially when things like No Man's Sky exist, right? However, No Man's Sky and Starfield are very different games. One is almost entirely procedural, if I'm understanding, which is No Man's Sky, whereas Starfield is going to have handcrafted pockets of landmarks or structures. It's going to have handcrafted things kind of intermittently placed among the procedural maybe environments or foliage, things like that. So it's not surprising to me. I think that it will, for me, it's not a deal breaker. I mean, you can't even land on a ship from space. I think it mentions that in the article. I read a little bit of it. So it's kind of like there's a suspension of disbelief we're gonna have to have, and I think it's worth it if the game runs well and the game, you feel like while you're exploring, it's content worth exploring, where you're not just, doesn't feel like procedural. If it feels natural, I think that'll make it worth it, right? If it feels like it's not like generic and it feels really nice and natural and realistic, then I think the boundaries are worth it, rather than having them go just full seamless. So let's read a little bit. Biggest game of the year, springing leaks just before the release, creating some uncertainty about one of its most anticipated features, planet exploration. Not mine personally. I actually don't care too much about planet exploration. Yeah, I really don't. I don't need 1,000, right? I don't need 1,000. I could probably do good with a solar system. As long as what matters more to me is that there's more quality content rather than quantity of content. I think I speak for most people on that, but it's a space game. They have to make it feel huge, right? So that's kind of what they're going for. As collated by Kotaku, a boundary reached message appeared in leaked Starfield gameplays from both YouTube and a Chinese forum post that appeared over the weekend. Both since removed but surviving via archive. Oh, they both really removed it yet. Seemingly indicated that Starfield's planets aren't one continuous open world. Player runs a single direction of planet before reaching an invisible boundary. Possible restrictions come as no surprise. Yeah, here's where it makes the comparison to No Man's Sky. Comes as a surprise to fans who expected it to work like No Man's Sky, which I personally did not. I knew there'd be some kind of catch. I knew there would. We've all known all along would have some limits. Yeah, we did. Like how you would not be able to fly the ship into the planet's atmosphere. Hasn't been specific. Bethesda hasn't been specific about on-foot travel in official presentations. So that's probably why they weren't specific. They knew this wasn't going to be popular. The Starfield boundary reach drama is very stupid. That's all I'll say. And again, it's not stupid. It's definitely not stupid. It's definitely concerning. However, it's going to depend on a lot of things. It's going to depend on the implementation of it. It's going to depend on how quality it feels like to explore what we have on a planet. Like, how many spots can you land on a planet? Can you land literally anywhere you want and then just have a space around it? That's perfectly acceptable for me. If you can land on a majority of the places on the planet and you can explore the majority of a planet just in different, slices, that's still pretty fine for me. If you can only land on 1 or 2 spots on a planet, 2 or 3, like if I can't land on the ice caps of the planet, you know what I mean? Like if I'm not allowed to and I can't walk there, that's a problem, right? That's a problem. If I can, if I want to go, if I see like an island on a planet and I want to go to that island and there's no like spawn point on the island, that's a problem. That wasn't the game I was being sold, right? So that's a problem. So yeah, I don't think it's stupid. It's definitely not stupid. It's a legitimate concern. So we know from June Starfield Direct you can select a spot anyway. Oh, that just answered my question. That's cool. See, that's not a problem for me. That's awesome. I don't remember that being on Starfield Direct, but again, select a spot anywhere. I'm sorry, but I have a hard time trusting developers when they say things like that. I do. Because, anywhere, again, might not literally be anywhere. It might be close to, I don't know. We'll see. If it's literally anywhere, that's great. But it may indicate the game may only load the planet you're currently on in chunks, that's absolutely fine. It's not how I assumed it would work when Todd hired us. No, it's not how you assumed it would work. Because our brands typically go towards best case scenarios. But yeah, it would be on the course for Bethesda to load every time you enter a large building. Yeah. Indicating you can explore a whole planet after a landing. So he said that. Pete Hines is not a developer. Pete Hines, as far as I know, is marketing. He's gonna promise more. He's gonna have the potential to promise more than they can deliver because he doesn't even know what the team is actually doing at the time. It's possible that they maybe had it explorable, but they found it affected performance. When he said that, there's a lot of different situations there that he might not have been up to date on. The reactions about the leak are a mix of disappointment and acceptance as well as skepticism. Yeah, I'd say it's a mix of all three of those. One Steam thread with almost 200 comments includes several users wondering if people are misinterpreting the boundary reach messages. I don't know. The photo floating around the border was also during the tutorial period of the game. Bethesda has also stated the game opens up much more after the tutorial. I wonder if it could possibly be that it's trying to direct you towards specific destinations during a tutorial, right? That could be possible. We've seen tutorials like that in a lot of games where it won't open the world up to you right away because it wants you to go through a certain training first before you can do that. I personally hate that, and that's very not Bethesda-like to me at all. I mean, Skyrim and Oblivion had tutorials, but they were it was more like you could, it was like you were inside basically. I mean, you were in a village or you were in an underground escape passageway, and then or like the vault and Fallout, and then once you get in the world is it's there. So yeah, I think the likelihood of that being a tutorial is not high. I think that's probably going to be what it is. I think there's going to be boundaries. I don't think that's even. I don't know. The more I look into it, the worse it is. So there are invisible ways, and you are forced to go back to your ship to move to different chunks. Well, I mean, there's an aspect of realism to that, right? You would not go too far away from your ship, especially if your ship can take off and land on the same planet. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna go super far away from your ship. Like, how many people go camping in an RV and then walk to the other side of the country? You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing. Like, you're not gonna realistically an expedition to a planet. You're not gonna abandon your ship. You're not gonna abandon your one ticket way out of there. It's just not gonna happen. So I'm all right with it. I'm okay with it. Like, I'm skeptical still, but I'm veering on okay. The scope of the planets in this game are too massive to worry about how far I'm tethered to my ship. Now that's a comment that I have more important things to worry about than to measure how many football fields I can run from point A to point B once exiting my ship. I don't think you're gonna have to worry about it. Like, I think he's making it a little too much. Like, I don't know. He's making it a little too serious. I think. Like, why would you need to worry about it? You get a boundary. I mean, I guess you kind of have to worry about it if you're trying to do something specific. But if you can land anywhere on a planet, just land close to where you want to go. I mean, I actually don't think we're going to be hitting boundaries too often. I think we'll have an idea of how far we can run. We'll get that idea in our head, and we'll kind of know where to land after that. I mean, I don't think that's a big issue. I think that's kind of just getting scared for scared's sake here. Please, enough with the boundary drama. Can I read them? This is the most minor of things people could possibly complain about. God. You can still explore planets entirely, just not seamlessly. Some people are really going to ignore everything you can do in favor of some mindlessly mundane thing. I think this guy's being a little too harsh, but I do agree with that. I don't think it's a big issue. I'd be more concerned about performance right now, or which I heard there was a leak that the performance is fine and the bugs are minimal, which I'm surprised. But if that's what the leaks say, I don't know. That's good. I'd be more concerned with that. I would be more concerned with, whether the game feels copy pasta, copy paste. I'd be more concerned with, in terms of exploration, I'd be more concerned that the planets are boring than whether there's a boundary. Absolutely. And that's what this says right here. Collision course with the same expectations versus reality that No Man's Sky experienced. It's worth considering that walking continuously across 1,000 barren planets may not be all that interesting in the first place. Well, yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I hope that even the planets that are barren are interesting to some degree. Like you can find a cliff that looks really scenic, or you can find a crater that's really like deep and cool, or you can, see mountains, and you can climb mountains. And then the view distance is far, or like that you can see in the distance, you can watch a sunset on top of a mountain on a barren planet, things like that. Big flat planets with nothing is going to be pretty boring. If trees and creatures are kind of just haphazardly placed, really concerning. That was a big problem when I saw. I never played No Man's Sky, but when I was watching the initial release coverage. It was just like random trees, random animals, just all over the place. I remember the one thing. I remember No Man's Sky had that trailer. They had that big ass worm, and you're thinking you're gonna see all kinds of stuff. You're thinking you're gonna see freaking dinosaurs, freaking Godzillas, worms, fucking Cthulhu type looking things. And no one ever saw anything. It was literally just bullshit creatures, like look like they're out of a fucking like a mutated lab or something. It's like just but yeah, my concern is that the planets are fun. They're fun. They're interesting. And that's what I want. I don't really care about the boundary if I can just pick my ship up and do. Still always felt really cool. I could keep on walking if I want to. I agree. I mean, there is something cool about that, right? One of the things I liked about like World of Warcraft versus like Final Fantasy 14 or other MMOs like ESO or whatever was that the world was seamless, right? You could just walk and like never hit a loading screen. Like it was just you could walk or fly, and there was one world. Arcade did the same thing. I used to play a lot of MMOs, so and that was. I always thought that was great. I always preferred that, but it was never like a mandatory thing for me. But it was always preferable, right? It won't be long before you know how it all works. Starfield releases, blah blah blah. So I think I pretty much said all I need to say. But yeah, for me, it is a concern, but it's not a huge concern. I think that it'll be okay. I have confidence that they have their reasons for this, and that the planets will be interesting. But I could be wrong, right? It could be really annoying. There is that possibility where you just land, the planet's boring, and then you hit a wall. Like, and if that's the case, damn, like, you fool us. Like, you know what I mean? So, but that's all I gotta say. I'm out. Peace.